Do you think Eddie Nketiah until Eddie Nketiah, we kind of overdid the whole thing about Eddie Nketiah when we were talking about him after those Europa League games because of the fact that, as just said earlier, and others have said before, he never really got an opportunity to play with the first team and get many minutes. When he did, if you guys don't know, last year when he got opportunity to play, only Cristiano Ronaldo had more goals than him in that time period where he started every game.
Yeah, I mean, I do think so. Like, I do think that like during those Europa League games, I expected more from Eddie and Sambi and those guys. I remember us having those conversations. So, I mean, maybe I did go a little bit too far, but at the same time, when it came to him playing with the first team, I backed him to do fine. You know, I thought he'd be just fine for these 2 months or whatever it's going to be with Gabriel Jesus out. So, yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, like, I still expect Eddie to do better in those Europa League group matches than I thought he did, you know? So I don't know if I really like will go back on it too much, but yeah, Eddie, he still has a ways to go though, because even last season did really well when he started out and then he kind of petered out, especially like in the bigger games. Like when we played against Newcastle and we played against Spurs, those games were really difficult. I don't think he really did his best that he could have done in those games. So let's just wait and see. He did a really good job today. He backed himself. And so if he can continue that, then maybe the narrative changes. But this is somebody who's getting
I
paid
think it's harsh
100K
though.
per week, you know?
Jess, I think it's just a little harsh to point out two games where the whole entire team played bad. We can just put that on. We can put that on the manager and the whole team playing
No,
bad.
I disagree, Gal. I agree with
You
Jess
can't. You
because
can't. You can't single out Eddie Nketiah's performance against Newcastle and Tottenham as an example on why you might not trust him. That's very harsh
no, no,
because
no,
you
no,
trust
no.
Bukayo Saka, you trust Martinelli, and they all had bad games. Those two games. That's a
Yeah,
reality.
I agree
But
with
we
Jess
see
there, Gal.
Martinelli and Saka play, like, sorry, Brandon, but we see Saka and Martinelli play game in, game out. So they
I know,
have
but we don't see Eddie
more.
Nketiah play game in, game out. Hence why
No,
I'm saying it's harsh to just say those are the exact games. I get it
You
if it was a
gain
good.
you gain trust. You're not given trust and then you get taken away. You gain it. You start from zero and you gain it. That's how I am.
Okay,
You know,
but
so Eddie starts very low and now he's gaining more every game that he does well. Whereas Saka and Martinelli, like they've been there. I would trust them with so much more. Do you know what I mean?
no.
But
I
mm,
again,
completely understand where you're coming from, Jess, when you're saying trusting these players over that player. I'm just saying to point out those specific games as an example on Eddie Nketiah, I think is a little harsh on Eddie Nketiah when the entire team played bad. Maybe if you found a game where he had a bad performance and everyone else was up to a certain standard, then I could say, you know what, that's a good example.
okay,
yeah, but the
Southampton
point,
away last season. Boom. You know,
but the point,
he had chances and he didn't put them away. So that's a good example,
Okay,
I
the
fair enough.
think.
point is though, is you've got to perform in whatever game you're given an opportunity. And at that point, Eddie Nketiah was only given an opportunity in the Europa League games. We wasn't expecting Gabriel Jesus to get injured. If he hadn't have got injured, then Eddie Nketiah might not be getting this first team opportunity right now, right? So based off of that, then yes, you can criticise him for the fact that he didn't perform very well in them Europa League games. Because at the end of the day, if you're fighting to get a spot into the first team, then you have to perform when you're given an opportunity. He's been lucky enough that he's been given his opportunity because of an instance where we've got an injury to a player. So yes, you have to look at the games that he performed in the Europa League. Same with Sambi Lokonga and all the other players that are on the fringes of the squad. Because like I say, if you don't perform when you're given the opportunities, then eventually you're going to get moved on or you're going to get forgotten about completely. So he's very lucky. Eddie Nketiah needs to feel very lucky that he's been given this opportunity
He's not
because we could
lucky.
have gone out in January and brought somebody else.
No,
But
he's not
obviously,
lucky.
the manager has faith in him.
1 second. It's not
But
luck.
I mean, I
It's
don't even
he's
think
taking
we've
his
mentioned
opportunity.
like the biggest part of. But okay, he has taken his opportunity when he plays with the best, well, with the first team for the most part. He has against lower level opposition. Now you can pick it apart and say, well, Saka and Martinelli and none of them had good games, so it's okay for Eddie not to have good games. But Eddie has signed a long-term deal and he's on 100K per week and he plays for Arsenal Football Club and he has the number 14 on his back. Like, come on, we have to have bigger aspirations and bigger like we can be like, I get we can analyze it and pick it apart, but at the same time, like literally when he gets out there, he just has to do his job.
I,
Period.
I,
Whether
yeah,
it's in the Europa League, whether it's in, it doesn't really matter. You know
I
what I
think when
mean?
it
Like
comes to
that's where I stand with it. He's
I,
not
I
a
think,
he's not an academy kid anymore. He's 20. He was almost 24 years old.
yeah, I think
No,
when
Like
it
but
comes
we're
to
having two different conversations
yeah, but
here.
I think
We're
when it
not
comes to strike, I think when it comes to strikers, is this. I get your point about everyone can have a bad game. Strikers have a different, and attackers have a different role to nearly everybody else in a team. Attacking midfielders do have this a little bit. You need your strikers to be able to deliver for you on a day where your team's playing badly. And what you don't know about Eddie Nketiah yet is if Arsenal were having a stinker, can he come out of nowhere and score you a winner? Because that's needed in every single title winning team. That's needed in every single team that achieves greatness because you will always have, no matter how good you are. Go back and watch the Invincible season and watch how many times, not just Henry, because Henry is one of the
Yeah.
GOATs in the Premier League, but how many times your top level attackers, oh, he saved us this week. And he saved, I remember watching you guys as a kid. One week it was Henry, then it would be Overmars, then it would be Burkamp. And every week someone stepped
Wiltor,
up. And that's what you
Haaland.
need to get to. And I think Saka and Martinelli, I think Gabriel Jesus have that within them. Does Eddie Nketiah, because you need that as well. And I think that
Eddie Nketiah could be our Divock Origi, but just don't expect him to be the guy who overtakes Jesus and takes the spot from him and becomes the main starter forever.
yeah, but you don't want a Divock
I don't
Origi.
think
You don't want a
we
Divock Origi. You
do.
want better than that. You want better than Divock Origi. You don't want a cult hero that scored 2 or 3 goals that are like famous, but outside of that, did nothing else. You want a guy that's
No,
delivering
but
every time he
li-
plays. Right?
literally Eddie Nketiah, like I think he needs to be like a Diego Jota or something like that. Like to me, that's the best example of what he needs to be. Somebody who can pop in across the front line, whether it's through the center or off the left or whatever. And he may not be the most technically gifted because Diego Jota is not that, but he gets things done. He scores goals. He keeps that Liverpool front line ticking and Firmino, whoever is out. Like that's just what he needs to be. Eddie's doing a good job. Again, backed him to do well with the first team. But I'm not gonna renege and go back and say like when I saw him playing in the Europa League that it wasn't okay to be disappointed in what I seen. You know what I mean?
No, look, I get where you're both coming
But
from, and I think it comes down to
yeah,
this. Like,
like
Jess isn't gonna.
in general, I think we're pretty harsh on Eddie Nketiah, but he signed a
Yeah,
big.
that's what I mean.
No, listen, I get where Jess is coming from, and I look at it this way: Jess and certain Arsenal fans are not going to change their mind after one game today. Equally, you're not going to change your mind, Gal, if in the next match he's rubbish, are you?
No, but what she just said right there, that's all I wanted to hear. The fact that sometimes we can't be too harsh on him, because that's my main point. My main
Yeah.
point always was Eddie Nketiah is going to do a job for us, and if need be and called upon, he's going to be somewhat serviceable. But
Okay.
people are saying, no, he's rubbish, get him out, he's garbage. That's the kind of
Okay.
things that I feel like is harsh that's happening around
I
him.
understand that.